Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast about other podcasts, where each week we dive deep into a podcast and discuss all the things that we thought about and listened to and heard about and made us feel happy with. I'm Josh.
I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach.
And this week we are talking about a recommendation that was given to us directly from the man himself, Glenn Washington, the host and creator of Snap Judgment. And he recommended 4 different episodes of Snap Judgment. And we picked one. We picked Gambit. And so that is the episode that we are going to discuss today.
Yeah, this all came from when Kirk was sending out messages to everyone, just asking for just recommendations from some of our favorite shows. He basically picked any large podcaster he could and sent him a message like we were important people and said, hey, we're looking for recommendations. And he sent over this one. And if you've never heard Snap Judgment before, it is a fantastic storytelling podcast. They have done a great job for a long time now. How many episodes are they at?
They don't number them anymore. Like, it doesn't show a number, but I mean, I've been listening to them since I was farming. So that's like 5 years ago, and they weren't new, and I heard them there.
So yeah, they've been doing this for a long time, and they call it storytelling with a beat. So underneath all of their stories, they usually have kind of it's not high, like loud or anything like that. It's not really high energy, but it just kind of pushes the story along. It kind of adds a little bit to it. And they find just really great stories. There's been many episodes we've talked about on the show, from the spooked episodes to just randomly pointing it out. But when he actually responds to what we're saying, we definitely want to cover one of the ones that he personally liked. And he actually set this up by saying, trying to pick my favorite Snapped episode is like trying to pick a favorite child. And it's really hard to do. But then he picked 3 of them. So if he has children, they should watch out, because he can pick favorites if he needs to, if he's back against the wall.
Yeah, and I reached out to Zach and Kirk this week and said, hey, you guys want me to join on an episode? Because I know they were doing their anniversary or 100 episode-ish celebration. And they're like, yeah, join the one where we talk about Snap Judgment. After Kirk wrapped up the episode last week saying, Josh hates Snap Judgment. And so I love that they invited me specifically for this episode. However, I think it actually is perfect timing, because I looked at it with a new lens when I listened to it today. Historically, like, it's not my favorite podcast before. Like I mentioned this last time, it wasn't my favorite podcast, but I get it. I get its popularity. I understand why people like it. However, I looked at it with a new lens now, and I think it's because I've been reading East of Eden, which is a phenomenal kind of like classic literature book. And the prose and the writing style and how he says things is like almost kind of like musical throughout the whole book. And it's just absolutely phenomenal. So I've been thinking about kind of prose and like how things are said and kind of the weight that things carry by saying it one way versus another. And then realizing when listening to Snap Judgment today that it's kind of prose, but you take it into an audio medium and then you layer music into it. So it's just taking that idea of having good prose, of like telling a story in a very concise, specific way that gets maximum impact, and then layering in music and layering in tone of voice and layering in all the sound effects. And you get like a really powerful effect from it. And looking at it from that perspective, I enjoyed it significantly better, because I was looking at it for, hey, here's a great story. And a lot of times the stories are okay, but it's not like, oh, this is the craziest story I've ever heard. It's the story with the prose that they're using and the music layered underneath. It gives you a more emotional impact. And so kind of looking at it with that new lens completely changed my mindset on the podcast. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I would say that a lot of that is essentially, it's not the story, it's the storytelling. And that's what Snap Judgment is fantastic at doing.
Mm-hmm.
They've always done a great job at kind of immersing you in whatever they're talking about. Because yeah, even while we were listening to this today, you kind of hear some of these stories and you're like, there's not a ton going on, but that's how you can always tell a good storyteller. If they can tell a story where there's not a lot going on and it's not the most insane story you've ever heard, but still you listen and it impacts you in a way that it shouldn't based on what the actual content of the story is, that means it's a good storytelling.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the whole episode starts, and this is always one of my favorite parts of the show. And I will say I nerd out, and have I told you guys about the time that I met Glenn Washington?
We have talked about it many times.
But I think he probably is one of my favorite I
People.
guess people. I look up to him a lot, but it's because he has this ability to tell a story that, even if it's the most mundane, like it started off with him telling a story about playing chess, literally playing chess, and there was no giant payoff, but the way he told the story, you were into it, you were riveted, you were listening, and that's what makes an amazing storyteller to me.
And that's really the whole book of East of Eden. Like, you'll read like 3 chapters and nothing actually really happens, but you feel really good about it and enthralled in everything that he's saying. It's absolutely crazy. So that's, I think, why it resonated with me, because I'm in that mindset right now.
Yeah, I'm reading that book as well, and I've gotten lost multiple times because my mind will wander, and I'm like, dang it, they're talking about a different family? What family are they talking about? Because it's all these like, this person was a bad person to this person.
Yeah. It's
But
especially
it's
the
told
first
very
couple
well.
chapters.
Yeah,
The first
first-
couple chapters are very like, this family was this, and this person's daughter was this person, and this daughter was like this, and this son was like this.
Yeah, it's kind of like a genealogies.
It really does get into some of that, but it's great. I highly recommend it. I'm like 75% of the way through, and probably one of the best books I've ever read. But okay, so on the chess story, they ended that chess story basically saying, you got to look back, you got to look at the whole board. You're thinking too much. You got to look at the whole board.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys take away from that? What was that saying to you?
I was doing 14 things at the same time, so I wasn't really trying to dig too deep into what the metaphor was there. What did it mean something to you in particular?
No, I've been thinking about it, and I think there's a lot to
something
take away
there.
from it. Yeah. I think it's like a lot of times in our day to day, we're so focused on the day to day, we're not looking at the big picture. So like, you could have a perfect day planned out, but you're still not going in the right direction. You're still not winning because you're not looking at the big picture. I think that's a pretty easy takeaway. But I think there's more layers there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of metaphor kind of in that area, not seeing the forest for the trees. That entire idea of being so close to a painting you can't even see what it is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's just trying to, and I think you're right. A lot of times it would be kind of like, don't get too bogged down in the minutia, and know that when I think about that, I always think about, somebody said, I can't even remember where the exact context was anymore, but they said essentially to kind of try and relax yourself when you're going through a day-to-day life. When something happens that drives you up a wall, you think about, is this going to matter to me in 7 years? Is this going to matter to me in 7 months? Is this going to matter to me in 7 days, 7 hours, 7 seconds? And it helps you kind of put individual things into a category that's more fitting than like reacting purely. So I think a lot of those things could kind of play into what he meant there, where you're just trying to change that perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I think you've mentioned that before, but I need to actually do that in practice, like, because there's a lot of things that happen in day-to-day life, even if it's just small stuff, and usually it's the opposite. My worst days are when a bunch of tiny little things go wrong. Most of the time, it's just like, oh, I just want today to be over. Every little thing is just going to crap, and I get in my own head, and then I have a bad day. But yeah, I need to think from that mindset of, hey, this doesn't really matter in the large scheme of things.
It's almost like when it's a really big thing that happens, you feel like, this is a big bad thing that happened. I feel okay being upset by it. But if it's like a small thing, like you wake up and your neck has got a big cramp in it, you're like, this is a small thing and it's going to make me angry all day, but it doesn't impact anything in the long run. So it's just a small annoyance that just means nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's almost more annoying because it doesn't mean anything. It's just annoying.
It's just there to bother you. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so they start out with kind of that, just a little simple story, but even from this conversation we had, they just drop kind of little thoughts in your head. They're very effective at picking the stories that, even though they seem kind of simple, it's got potential to like mean something to people and to make you think about something else. But then the next two stories are less so of that. You know, it's much more intense story typically, you know. So the second one is about a guy who wrote a song. And
John Fusile. And I titled it Earworm. I don't even know if that's what they called it, but that's what I called it.
Thoughts on it was called Life on Easy Street.
Yeah,
yeah,
John
the
Fusile was the
song.
one that
Mhm.
was the producer that did this segment. It was Jim Bianco, who was the singer-songwriter. My bad.
And yeah, so this entire one is about somebody writing a song that was largely obscure for most of the time. He wrote just kind of a feel good song that was a little bit goofy. He talked about kind of the one of the interesting things that stuck out to me in this one is because I've heard it a lot, and it's something that I hadn't really thought about before like I'd started hearing this, cuz like when I've talked to some people for Creators Cove, they say like, "Oh, I just kind of was doing X one day. I was doing the dishes and this melody popped into my head." And I think that's something that singer-songwriters have. It just kind of at some point you kind of just like hear something. You hear something just kind of out of nowhere, out of your mind. And they end up wanting to like chase that down to try and refine that into a song. And so that was an interesting thing that I immediately heard there. I was like, okay, so this just happens to singer songwriters. They just think in melodies and they hear music in their head.
You know, one of the funny things is that's happened to me. And when he said that, I realized it's happened to me, but I have zero vocabulary and zero capability to translate it into anything. So there's been a couple of times in my life where I'm like, oh, yeah, I got this sweet jam in my head. And I was like, well, there's nothing I can ever do with that. So that's just for me.
Well, here it is. Here it is in my brain. But yeah, so he writes this song. He puts this song out. And I don't think that he really did anything with it. You know, it was kind of there. It didn't hit in any big way, and he literally was flipping houses. He had essentially moved out of that whole career path and was working in real estate, and he was just doing things. And then The Walking Dead TV show approached him to use this song, and it started this whole crazy chain of events that how do you ever like, can you imagine the position this guy was in where his song that was largely obscure went in a direction he was never anticipating?
Yeah, and this was when The Walking Dead was still like super popular, like number one in the ratings and stuff like that. And if he's like, well, yeah, sure, use it. And I guess he didn't like read up on what they were planning on using it for, because he said apparently it was written in there. But I remember this episode. Did either of you guys watch this episode?
I stopped after like season 2 or 3 of The Walking Dead.
I think this may have been the beginning of season 3, maybe season 4, but it was, I swear it was episode 1. So it was like everyone that's been watching the show is making sure they tune in to see how this next season is going to start. And they play this song, like they said 9 times. And it's just over and over because they show the monotony and the torture that they're doing to Daryl. And it's disturbing. And the song gets stuck in your head, and the rest of the episode you can't stop hearing it.
That's
And
such good writing because
it was good.
they exposed the audience to a piece of the torture that he was going through. And I
Yeah,
mean,
and
that's
it
just
got to
such
him.
brilliant writing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they semi tortured their audience, and they continue to do that for the remaining however many seasons they did.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of torture later on. I stopped watching, I think, after that. I think that was the last season I watched. It used to be an amazing show. I really liked it. I mean, it was
Yeah, early
gory
seasons
and
were good.
stuff, but it was good. Um, it got too repetitive, I feel like.
Sure.
Oh, we escaped this band of bad people. Now we're, oh no,
Now we're safe.
it's a beautiful town of safeness. Oh, these are bad people too. It's just, I don't know. It just happens. It got to be too much formulaic.
Yeah,
Was the way
it
I would put
was.
it.
I don't know. They had promise, but so his show or The Walking Dead features his song, and it blows up. It gets to really high on the charts. Everybody's talking about it. It becomes essentially what we call now viral, and it out of nowhere, his song, which was doing nothing, exploded. But then it took another turn. I really like this story because it's just insane to think about like what he was thinking as this was happening. after all this happens, then I believe it was at one of the ICE camps on the border. They were playing this constantly overnight just to what
No,
is
people
happening?
protesting in Portland.
That was the second one. First, it was ICE.
No,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
people
that's
in
what it was.
Portland protesting ICE, correct?
Oh, it was in
It was.
Portland the whole
Yep.
time.
It was
Yeah.
back in 2018 when there was all those kind of conversations going around with the border patrol people treating the people at the border terribly, and like the concentration camps and everything else they were doing. Like ICE was like really messing people up, so they had all these people camped out in front of ICE in Portland.
And then they started playing this song over and over and over again. They said it was like they said it was like 12 hours overnight. They were just blaring this song at people. And so now the song went from obscurity to some weird popularity based on TV show to literally being psychological warfare against protesters by a government agency. And it's one of the wilder paths I could possibly imagine for a song. I don't know how you really beat that. But then they go on to kind of like, they talk about essentially it was co-opted by the protesters themselves and kind of used their Jim
Some
ended
people
up
literally had PTSD because they had experienced being brutally arrested during this whole time, and they had that, that song as a sensory memory, and when they would hear it, it would kind of trigger it. So that was crazy and horrible.
Yeah, and one of the things that, like, in light of kind of what's been going on across the country for the past couple months, I had not realized that peaceful protesters had been attacked by government agencies like this prior to the past couple of months. I thought that was like a new thing and just started popping up, but I just hadn't been paying attention. And to see that this has been going on for a couple of years and that they're abusing their power that way is just sad. It really is. And
Yeah.
their defense was, "Oh, we were just listening to that for us."
Yeah, clear lie. Yeah, clear lie.
That was so ridiculous.
But
Like,
they
that's
said they
such
wouldn't do it
ridiculous.
again because they didn't want to get sued, I guess. They didn't want to make national news. But yeah, they said they wouldn't do it again. They said it was just a couple of random people who happened to be listening to it. And yeah, so the actual songwriter obviously sent a cease and desist to them for doing that. And I don't know, it just kind of became this weird thing. It started out as kind of like a anti-protesting thing, but then the protesters took it over and made it like a pro-protesting kind of statement. So it was just crazy to hear this song get a life of its own. To
And
hear,
it's such like an upbeat, like,
oh, it makes no sense in any of the context it's in. You know, like you'll have to listen to this. What's it called? Life on Easy Street?
it is an earworm. It's a song that will get stuck in your head. Yeah, it's Easy Street, I think is the name of the song, maybe, or Life on Easy Street. I don't know.
And they mentioned it in there. It almost sounds like a song you would hear on a children's show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes no sense in the context it was used in pretty much
Like,
any of these situations.
It sounds like the theme song for like a kid's Disney show is what it sounds like.
But let's be honest, most songs that would feel like torture are songs like that. Like, okay, so we talked about what would be the song that would torture us, or that we would torture our enemies with. I don't like it that way, but what would really bother us? That's the way I'm going to put it. What would be the thing that if someone used it on us, it would really torture us? For me, it would be Baby Shark. I hate that song.
Baby Shark,
so
I
much.
would be surprised if Baby Shark wasn't actually used. I would be
it
surprised.
was here in Florida. It was here in Florida. There was a Florida man story about, I think it was homeless people that kept sleeping at this gazebo in
Yep.
this park. And so like this politician started playing that at the gazebo all night long. So it has been used as
You know
a
what I'm saying?
deterrent.
Every one of these, it's not a good usage. Like it's never like, oh, they did it for fun. They did it to fun mess with somebody. No, it's always terrible. I'm trying to
What
think.
would be the song that would really bother you, Josh?
I mean, I think I can name a handful that would be bad off the top of my head. Disturbed, Down with the Sickness would be a
Oh
good one.
yeah, that'd be
Uh,
terrible.
and then I think also like Gangnam Style, because it's so high energy. I think it would be exhausting
Yeah.
after listening to it on repeat for a long enough amount of time.
What about Photograph by Nickelback?
Oh God, yeah.
There,
Have
there
I
was
been
guys.
tortured by that
There
before?
were,
Like I
there were
feel,
guys.
I had a feeling when you said those words.
The
Like
guy, the guy
I
from the
didn't
Bad
like it.
Christian podcast did that. Kirk. He listened to Nickelback on repeat for 24 hours straight.
Yeah,
I forgot he said he did that.
Yeah,
that's
I'm trying to
ridiculous.
think. Yeah, no, all of those would be pretty bad. I'm trying to think of somebody that's just like, it's so.
So I'll name some other ones that the United States has used in the past. Barney the Dinosaur, Sesame Street, um, the Real Slim Shady, the Meow Mix theme song.
Meow Mix.
Uh,
Meow Mix is good. That's
that
evil
one,
genius. Like,
that one's pretty bad. And
Well,
there was some other ones, definitely some like metal and stuff. I think they used it even like on the siege of Waco. I remember I watched the documentary and I had also heard a lot of stories about it as well that they used it there. It's it's just insane.
I mean, the guy that came up with the Meow Mix theme song to use that way, I swear he did the Austin Powers like pinky to his cheek thing, like whoa, yeah.
yeah, yeah. That song.
I
As soon
mean,
as
you
you
don't
said that, I
forget it
could
when
hear
the
it.
commercial comes on. I mean, it comes on and you're like, "Oh God, I'm just gonna be in my head the rest of the night," and I don't want it to be, but it is. It is gonna be because it's meow 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 over and over.
It
You know,
is.
it's in your head right now. It just is.
No, I heard it as soon as you said it. And I heard it in my head the second you said it.
Can we play that as our outro?
I wish, but I think we'll get a takedown. They're very concerned about it. Actually, no, they probably love it. It's just free
Let's just
advertising
sing it.
from Meow
Let's
Mix.
sing it in a round. That's basically what it is.
But yeah, no, it was a crazy story, and I can't imagine because at one point he said like, I knew at this point that I had lost control, and like I had never really thought of it that way. Where like, okay, he made something, and then it is doing something else now. He has no, it's not normal popularity. It's this own thing that's got a life of its own, and it's just crazy to think about. So it was a really cool one.
And when it was on The Walking Dead, it hit number 6 on iTunes and like number 1 on Spotify trending or something like that. It was big. Like I didn't never hear
Oh,
it
that
like in the
show was a
wild.
monster. Like that show had so many viewers for so long.
But I'm just saying I never heard that song in the wild, but apparently it like shot up for a very short period of time because of, that exposure. So then the second story, I really like that second story. It hit me in the feels a little bit though, man. I
Oh
felt so
yeah.
bad for the kid.
No, yeah. No, I feel like if you don't feel bad for this kid, there's something wrong with your brain/heart.
It was the story of little Gus Lee. And it's this story of this little Asian kid that he thought his mom was, going to visit family or something like that, and she was going to come home. She never did.
And I
And
didn't
like
really get any of that. Like what was going on with his like dad? Like
He found a new woman
because she got sick or because she died?
because she died.
probably because she died, but they had never told the little boy. So he's just assuming he was little, like he was like 7 years old when this all started. And he lived in sounds like a fairly rough area because he would get beat up like every single day. And
I
don't
put
know,
a lot of that on the stepmother who sounds like a Disney villain level terrible.
guys, we definitely can't say the name, but did this make you think of a friend of ours that had a very
Yes.
similar
Yes,
situation?
it did.
And it made me even more mad. It was infuriating. She would like lock him out of the house, and he wasn't allowed to come back home until she like whistled out the window that he was allowed to come back in the house. So he would have to be
While he
outside
was
all day
being
long.
beaten outside.
Yeah, it was just intense, and specifically by one big kid. So it was basically kind of like a Karate Kid story in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the worst part outside of the physical abuse and keeping him outside of the house was the emotional and psychological abuse of basically trying to erase his culture by saying you can't speak Chinese, we can't eat Chinese food, we can do nothing, and it's absolutely brutal. Like just trying to erase a child's culture like that when they're a kid, and even like you can't practice Chinese in the bathroom. If I hear you doing it, you're going to be in trouble. It's just
Yeah, no,
depraved.
the stepmother in this story sounds the worst. Like, and that's the thing is you have to feel for this kid. Like he was clearly traumatized and then just abandoned essentially. And so yeah, he's getting beat up constantly. And at one point, just I guess somebody that kind of knew his family was just around recommended that he go to the YMCA and take some boxing classes. And
Yeah.
that was the turn. That was the turn for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because the guy saw him get beat up so many times, so he's like, went to the dad. He like knocked on the door and told the dad, "Hey, if you don't let your kid learn how to fight, he's gonna get killed. Like he's gonna get killed in the streets because he is always getting his butt whipped." And it was kind of comical in a way how like inept this little kid was. Like it even says like he was 7, but he looked like he was 5, but he acted like he was 3.
Yeah.
He says that. So he was physically small. He didn't speak English very well at all. Which, by the way, if this was him telling the story, which I believe it was, he
It
speaks
was.
amazing English
Yeah,
now.
he's fluent now for sure.
He's written 9 books, so this is based off of a book he wrote in like '91, I think.
Yeah, and I can see why. And I will say this, you know, when someone goes through, and we've talked about this, and you know, there's the whole, you know, Malcolm Gladwell thing that we've talked about as well with Outliers, but I feel like there are people that have come through really, really, really bad scenarios like this and have fought very difficultly and hard to get out of it. And, you know, this is one of those stories. You know, now he's like a motivational speaker and author, and it's amazing.
Yeah. So he starts boxing training. A coach really relates to him, even though he's like terrified of the whole situation. They start feeding him and doing the things like his parents should have done. And they start teaching him how to fight. And he starts to find like his place and his stride a little bit of confidence.
I
And it
love the first time they put him in the ring and the
Oh
bell
yeah.
rang and he literally just jumped out of the ring and ran into a wall and knocked himself out.
That's what I was saying. It was kind of comical how inept he was at
Yeah.
fighting at first.
Yeah, no, it's a very fun story to listen to him tell because now you can hear the end. You know, like it is a sad story, but you know that the ending is better than the beginning. So it makes it so that like kind of you're following this kid who just should not have been exposed to everything that he was exposed to. And yeah, even how his stepmother like revealed that his mom has died was just like the worst. Like she is the worst person. Everything about what she did was like, how are you like this?
Yeah, I think that if I were to hear any like really bad emotions in his voice, I would have just started bawling because it was such a horrible story. Luckily, it sounds like he's really gotten through it well, but that part was like, oh, it was just horrible. Because he even says, he's like, she knew this basically from the beginning, and she was waiting for the exact moment where she wanted to break me and kind of like destroy my world. And she found it, and then she just like, your mom's dead. You know, she even had his sister tell him.
Yeah.
It was
And
so sad.
and it was when he was starting to make progress and started to get his feet underneath him, she basically just kicked his feet out from underneath him. And he said like even after that he spiraled back into depression. Um, and it took kind of the boxing coaches to force him out of it, to get him back on his feet, to start moving forward again, and said, "Hey, you need a victory." And I just love how this, like, again, just amazing storytelling here, where he conquered his personal kind of self doubt. He physically fought and conquered the bully, and then he verbally conquered his stepmother and said, "I don't know why you're bullying me, but you're not going to bully me anymore."
Yeah. So you're not my mom, and you're not going to bully me anymore.
Yep.
No, and it sounded like he summoned all his strength by thinking about his mom in that moment when he like fights the bully, you know? So it really is, it's just
It,
great storytelling.
and
It's
I love that it subverts the cliche like, oh, he's going to go be a boxer, he's going to get strong, and then he's going to use his strength to win. It wasn't about the boxing or being strong. It was about the emotional strength and the mental fortitude. That's what won both of those victories for him.
Yeah, it was about a kid who should not have gone through anything that he had to go through, and it made him strong.
But overall, I mean, it was an amazing episode. I get why Glenn Washington wanted to recommend it. Did we mention that Glenn Washington recommended this episode? Because he did. I just wanted to say that again. But no, honestly, I did feel honored, and it meant a lot to me that he took the time to answer us, because there's a lot of people that did not.
Yeah, no, it was really nice of him to do that.
We really appreciate it, and
we're huge fans of Snap Judgment.
Yep. So, Zach, I believe that you have the audio for our recommendation for this week.
I do. So we reached out to another one of the Podfix shows. This one is called It's Not Rocket Surgery, a really awesome show that is both a podcast and on the radio in Australia. And Vlado is a lot of times hanging out in our chat, and he's in the Podcast Discovery Club. So we reached out so we could get a review from him. So this is his recommendation for next week.
Good day, guys. It's Vlado from It's Not Rocket Surgery, giving you a review on In Machines We Trust, a new podcast I discovered just the other day, and it's brand new. It came out on the 12th of August. Comes via the MIT Technology Review. The creator is Jennifer Strong, known for her stuff that she's done on Future of Everything, a Wall Street Journal podcast. This is a 4-episode podcast series about the use and misuse of artificial intelligence, predominantly in the facial recognition area, and how it's being used already by law enforcement and companies and social media. It's extremely well written podcast. Production values are what you'd expect of MIT from somebody who works for the Wall Street Journal and their podcasts. Very informative, easy to listen to. 4 20-minute episodes that looks into, as I said, the artificial intelligence use of facial recognition, and some interesting stories of how it's affecting people's lives already. Quite insightful, quite scary in some instances. But yeah, you'll definitely learn a lot from these 80 minutes of podcasting. Yeah, so the first episode goes into when artificial intelligence gets it wrong. So it looks at a case study where somebody's falsely accused of robbery and law enforcement misusing it. So and the follow-up, and it just goes further in depth with the episodes 2, 3, and 4. Land of a Billion Faces. What happens in Vegas is captured on camera, and who owns your face. So if you've got 80 minutes and you're interested in artificial intelligence, technology, privacy, law enforcement, social media, all those sort of things, well worth checking out In Machines We Trust.
So yeah, thanks so much, Vlado, for recommending In Machines We Trust. He recommended all 4 so that we could essentially talk about 80 minutes of podcast. That's not too bad. But it's an awesome idea to try and explore a technology that it's kind of on the rise. We're seeing how it can be used in a lot of different ways. And with that comes the ways it should not be used. So it should be really cool to check out the recommendation. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited and also terrified, because I feel like this is one of those things that I'm going to be like, I kind of wish I didn't know this.
Sure.
Because now I'm going to see it everywhere and it's going to bother me. But it's also probably better to know and be aware.
I agree.
Well, Josh, thank you for being our guest host on our 100-ish celebration. You were one of the OGs, and we miss you.
I would like you to call me your ghost from now on, the portmanteau of guest host. Ghost.
Okay.
Sure.
You are our ghost.
Yeah, you
The
can be
ghost of
you can be
Pods
the
Past.
ghost. But yeah, that's all for this week. And remember,
There's always more to discover.
Yeah.
thank you for listening to the Podcast Discovery Show. We have a few things we'd like to tell you. First, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at the PDS Official or in our Facebook group, the Podcast Discovery Club.
Secondly, leaving a rating or review on iTunes helps tremendously in giving us visibility and also visibility to the podcast that we recommend. You can also check out our Patreon page.
How's it going, everybody?
What is up, guys? How you guys doing tonight? We are doing the final touches on getting our notes together and getting all of the watch parties and all that stuff set up. It sounds weird on Facebook again. Nope, no, it doesn't. Never mind.
Are you sure that's not just your normal voice?
No. Dang it, you jerk. No, what happened is I had two of them with the audio on, so it was an echo. But
Oh,
it was
okay.
because two of the 14,000 streams that we have at the same time were playing.
Okay, so were you wanting to play both calls? We do have 2 calls. So we could play one after Giles and then the last one.
Giles in the last one, and then Keith's next week. Because then I think Giles at the end of that, is that when he says that he doesn't?
He does
even
kind
say
of
on
here.
that
Let
one.
me continue chopping that up. So
I think
everybody's
there's
gonna
a little bit of a little
everybody's
bit
gonna
of
get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain here because I need to cut a part of this out. We had when we talked to the Filmmakers podcast, we had them give us a couple recommendations for movies. So, and I need to figure out. I'm pretty sure it's right here.
Hello, everyone. It is Giles here from the Filmmakers Podcast, and I'm going to give you a recommendation.
We'll
I
skip
urge you
it. No
check
spoilies.
out Monday
No
by Alejandro
spoilies, no
Montoya
spoilies.
Marin.
Okay. So, let me see. He did, and I took the. Okay, we're not going to get the back and forth. We'll have to set up the back and forth because I guess we can put it in there if you want. But I have it where it's basically he has his thing.
isolated, basically.
He has like an isolated, like, here's his recommendation type thing. And that was when we were like talking to him before he did that part of it.
Got you. No, that's fine. I just played the recommendation. I do my vocal warm-ups. Unique New York. Unique New York.
It's very important. Got to do it.
Me.
Okay, and the rest we'll just do through desktop audio for now. We can essentially, once you, when you need it for like your side of things, then we can go ahead and just like download it, but I'll just play it straight off of here when we get to that part.
Got Normie in my lap. He just hit his head on the microphone earlier while
He
me and
did.
Zach were talking.
It made an amazing noise. Everyone missed some amazing comedy. Okay, I think I'm basically good. That's for Todd's technically anyways.
Yeah. We're just trying to
Give
get
me
the
1
notes
second.
for Todd's ready. And if you are not part of the Discord, you should join it because we get to listen to these episodes together. So then you know what we're talking about. You could listen to them with us and then be in the loop for what we're going to talk about on the live stream or on the podcast, however you go about it.
And it was kind of
Well,
always
listen-
our dream. It was always our dream to be able to have these conversations with people as we're listening to it together.
Yeah.
And if you listen to it in our Discord every week, then also you can hop in here and you'll know exactly what we're talking about because you heard us listen to the exact episode we're talking about. So that was the inception of the show and why we wanted to do it this way. So we've been trying to build some stuff so that we can make it easier for everyone.
Yeah, it's been it's been an adventure. We're slowly trying to implement all the things that we wanted from the beginning, but it takes time. We didn't think it was going to take 4 years, but I think we didn't even start trying pretty good until like halfway year 2.5, almost 3. So
Yeah.
I don't feel super bad.
No, and I mean that's the thing with us is for the longest time this was just our hobby. We would just get together on the weekends and hang out and have a drink and talk about things and record it. But not that we like never cared about it. We always tried to make it like fun, but we started like actually putting effort into the back end of it fairly recently.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to just go ahead and refill my water right now, and then we'll launch right in.
Let me know when you're back. I want you to do something. He doesn't have his headphones in. He doesn't know what I said. For some reason, it won't let me start a watch party. in the Facebook group. I swear it gave me an option earlier, but now it's not. They changed everything on stinking. I don't like Facebook. I don't like Facebook. And they're probably gonna like bleep this out on the Facebook stream because they're ridiculous and listening to everything. But there's just so many people there, and it's the easiest way to connect with a lot of people. But if it wasn't for the podcast, I don't think I'd have a Facebook at all anymore. I do enjoy Twitter. I know it's very similar, has its own downfalls for sure, but I feel like I can follow more of the people that I really look up to and stuff like that, and be more in the know on things that other people. You can't do that on Facebook.
Okay. What's
Our
going
friend
on?
on YouTube also said ban TikTok.
Ban TikTok.
Mm-hmm. I said I don't think we have the power to do that. The Podcast Discovery Show doesn't have the power to.
I mean,
do
we
that.
could make some calls. Those calls would be largely pointless, but we can make them.
Yeah, I got a cousin that is the mayor of Plant City, my little town. So maybe I'll call him, see if he can do something about it.
We need to get TikTok out of here. We're sick of it.
I actually don't have TikTok, so it's. I mean, I banned it for myself. So
I don't
there,
either.
I did it.
I feel like we are past the age demographic on TikTok.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't. I can't do all of them. There's too many of them. There's too many things, and there's too many new ones that come out. I can't follow all of them.
Oh yeah, no, I
Can't do
gotcha.
them all.
I don't think people want us on there anyways.
Okay, can you do me a favor? Can you go to the Facebook group,
Mm-hmm.
and can you see if you can try to start a watch party on what I shared in there? For some reason, it's not letting me, and I don't know why, but it's not.
By the way, the group he's talking about is the Podcast Discovery Club. We share all kinds of stuff in there. All right, what do you want me to do? Try and start a watch party?
Yeah, in the group.
I mean, honestly, like it doesn't say like watch party, but I see the stream in there that you shared.
Okay, so basically, if they click that link, it takes them to the page, right? I think that's how it works.
No, you don't even have to do that. You can just maximize it.
Okay. I was just saying, like, how do I know if there's comments or something so we can respond if we need to? That's my issue. Is like with the watch party, I could at least see the comments as they came in live, whereas with this,
I don't see
I
like
guess
a
I can see
setting
it.
to start a
Maybe-
watch party.
yeah, I don't know.
But I see both of the top two posts on here are you posting this. So
Okay.
I think we're good. We'll just have to take a look at it.
All right then. Then we're good. Okay, so to start this out, I'll intro intro our show, and then you intro the show we're going to talk about, and then I'll talk about Jennifer Strong for a second, and then we'll start diving into the show. Is that cool?
Okay. Sure. Give me 1 second to do all this.
And do you have the Hillsborough County story?
I mean, I can grab that fairly
Just 'cause
easily.
you have that in your notes on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I just thought, what do you think? I think it just perfectly applies here.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's just crazy because it was like a discovery you had this week. Then we listened to this, and they referred to it in passing.
Mm-hmm.
You heard that, right?
Yeah.
They talked about that specific.
Here's the craziest thing.
county.
I think they talked about Pinellas, which is St. Pete. This is Pasco. So like, it's not just one; it's two different counties doing things.
And the guy that was saying that was Miami. So
yeah, there's that.
interesting. Well, welcome to the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I got that up as well. All right, I think I'm good-ish.
All right. Well then, I'm gonna hit record here. Actually, let me let Normie out of here. He doesn't like sitting in my lap this whole time.
I believe that.
Right, Normie, you're free. You're free. And he's right here at my feet. I'll go put him somewhere real quick. All right, he's in his happy place. He's on the couch eating Pringle crumbs that Mason got everywhere.
Sounds like it would be his happy place.
Literally, I went in there earlier and he was like standing on his hind legs, like licking something on the couch. I'm like, what are you doing? And then it was like at Mason's like lap area. And then I look and he's just got Pringles everywhere. I'm like, oh, he's just licking up crumbs.
Feasting.
All right, let me hit this record button. Let's get that 10 seconds of silence, even though I haven't had to use it, but always good to have it. Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast that's about other podcasts, where every single week we take a deep dive discussion, book club style, into the podcast we recommended last week. And at the end of this episode, we're going to have a brand new recommendation just for you, and we'll talk about that one next week. I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach. And this week, we are doing another one of our celebration of our 100-ish episodes. And we got a recommendation from Vlado over at It's Not Rocket Surgery. And he recommended the show In Machines We Trust. And this is a show by MIT Technology Review. And I'll read their synopsis because it's pretty good. And it looks like what they're doing is kind of a small mini-series. So they're doing the one that we're talking about today is about facial recognition. And it's about how these things are affecting our lives and how constantly they're used and things like that. But in general, the show is about some of the most important decisions in our lives are being made by artificial intelligence, determining things like who gets into college, lands a job, receives social services, or goes to jail, often without us having any clue. In Season 1 of In Machines We Trust, host Jennifer Strong and the team at MIT Technology Review explore the powerful ways that AI is shaping modern life.
So I recognized this lady's voice because I used to listen, and we've covered and talked about the future of everything. And it's an amazing show by the Wall Street Journal. And so I looked into her and what all she's done, because she's done a lot of stuff. So Jennifer Strong brings complicated topics to life with sound and storytelling for the Wall Street Journal podcasts. Ms. Strong's previously worked as an anchor for Wall Street Journal Radio on CBS and XM, as an NPR producer, and she spent 5 years reporting and anchoring for NPR stations in Washington, D.C. Ms. Strong has a graduate degree in international affairs journalism from American University and has completed 2 night, and it's with a K, not night school, night science journalism programs at MIT on neuroscience and nanotechnology. So she's very smart.
She has a crazy resume of amazing things she's done.
Yeah, I wanted to spotlight that because all the things that she's done, I'm like, man, this is really good. The Future of Everything is a great show, and it's fascinating because you learn so many different things. I think that was a show that we covered where they talked about like basically companies that were like SpaceX, but in other countries. Like there was one that they talked about in Australia, and a few other ones, but it was really interesting. They cover futuristic companies and things that are being developed and stuff like that. But this show is all about facial recognition technology.
Yeah, so it ends up being 4 episodes that were recommended to us. When an algorithm gets it wrong, Land of a Billion Faces, When It Happens in Vegas, it's captured on camera. Or no, it's What Happens in Vegas is captured on camera. And then Who Owns Your Face are all like a 4-part mini series about facial recognition.
So the episode starts, like episode 1 starts with hearing about a man who basically gets wrongfully arrested for something he had nothing to do with because of facial recognition. That's how it starts, correct?
Yeah, no, they
If I'm
literally
remembering right.
They were calling him. It was a guy that was getting called by a police department in Detroit. He was not in Detroit, and he was getting called, and they said, "Turn yourself in." He's like, "For what?" And they said, "This is going to be a lot easier for you if you turn yourself in." And he's like, "No, get a warrant. I'm not going to turn myself in for whatever you guys are upset about." But they ended up coming to his house and arresting him, and it was all based on the idea that facial recognition software in their area matched his face incorrectly to someone who was, what was it, stealing watches or something? It was like stealing
watches.
jewelry. And so he was arrested and wrongfully detained because a facial recognition algorithm made a mistake. And that's the first story of this entire thing. And honestly, it sent me into that place where this is, first of all, general thought, this show is really, really great. Like all the other stuff that she's done, it's a really great, well-produced show. Super interesting. Also terrifying the whole time.
So terrifying.
Like, you will, as we talk more about some of the stuff they cover in this, you'll hear a lot more about why it's so terrifying. But it really was. And so it was a weird mixture to be, I don't know, deeply disturbed and then also riveted by a show.
Yeah, because I mean, it feels like sci-fi. I don't know. There's something about it that feels just like a movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's weird that it's actually happening. It's actually being used, and there are some things that are going on that aren't great.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. And they try to get into a lot of these things. So the first one is essentially about mistakes that AI can make when they're doing this. Because okay, if the premise is you solve crimes and you help find people that are committing crimes by using an algorithm. You put their face into a computer and then it will try and match it to who that person is based on what they have in their database. But what is the failure rate of these things? How often is it messing up? Is that something that they know is happening? And then how much impact would people have because of the failures of this algorithm? And so each one of these kind of looks at like a different facet of how facial recognition and AI is being used. And it's being used a lot, which is something I did not realize and am now scared of.
Yeah, I mean, they even talked about like the accuracy on a lot of the ones that are being regularly used is like 20% accuracy, which was horrible. Later on in an episode, they talk about one in New York that they were using without anyone's consent, like on the roads to get people's faces if they ran a toll or something. And that one had 0% accuracy. Like it didn't get one person's face identified correctly, which is disturbing. And also it's disturbing that, and we'll talk about this a little bit later because they talked about it a lot, is that a lot of this stuff is just, it's being used on you without your consent all the time. Like that was one of the things that made me a little bit wary because we have that, like, what is it? The cashless tolls or whatever all the time.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. And they even mentioned in this that famously and recently Taylor Swift used this as like a private citizen at her concert because she had facial recognition on people coming into the show. Because and I guess it makes sense. It's sad, but it kind of like it makes sense with her level of fame. She has a database apparently of literally just people that stalk her, and so they essentially set up these facial recognition systems to try and find the stalkers in the crowd to try and like protect her. So
that's crazy.
And they talked about the amount of police stations using it. It's absolutely crazy. And then there's also one of the other things that kind of goes wrong with these facial recognition systems is there's literally like racism involved. Like they're not as good with some races as with others.
Okay, so I've been finding out about so many different people that are racist, and now I find out the computers are racist too. It's like, dang it, man!
Can't even trust the computers. Yeah, no, and it's like, how many things have to go wrong before this isn't something that law enforcement is using constantly? That was one of my questions that I had kind of throughout this is like, okay, so at what point do we say like, oh, this isn't sophisticated enough to use yet, and it's not something that people have to worry about? But it's just one of those things.
What I found was fascinating, and I will give them credit because they're giant companies, but what wasn't it? Google, Amazon, both of them have stopped allowing law enforcement to use their facial recognition. Was that the two companies, or was it?
I think so.
Or was it Facebook and Amazon? Either way, Amazon was one of them, and I think it was Google. And then IBM completely got rid of theirs. They had a pretty sophisticated one as well, and they completely stopped letting anyone use it. But there's other companies that are specializing in it. What was the one? Clearview?
Clearview. And then Faces, I think, was one out of Florida. And yeah, so there's private companies that are specializing in this. And you heard also the kind of that, and this is kind of dipping into episode 3, Land of a Billion Faces, where it's talking about some of the people who are doing this. And you get to hear everybody's explanation about how it's not actually infringing on your rights and all of these things. You know, basically, one of the main premises that they talk about is, and this is from them, this wasn't editorialized by the host. This was something that they literally said in an interview.
I will give respect for that. They actually were allowed to be. They allowed themselves to be interviewed, probably knowing what angle this show was going to take.
Yeah, no, and I mean, they did nothing to like. They did not change my mind about how they're like what they're doing. You know, it basically it is what it is. They're providing a service essentially. And how that's used is going to be the issue. But one of their main premises is, okay, so like this stream, this podcast we're doing right now, we are putting it out into the world. And so they essentially think that, okay, that's fair game. You are now part of like that database, you know? And it goes back to the same thing that's been talked about constantly. And we just never could have anticipated it before the internet, is like all of this data is just up for grabs. So I don't think it's at all unusual that this is happening this way.
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt weird about that. You know, people talking about privacy, about things that they're posting publicly. I've always thought that was kind of weird. You know, some people get weird about that. And you're like, you put it on freaking Facebook and you're not, you don't even have Facebook on private. How do you expect that not to be something that everyone sees?
Yeah.
So I've kind of, I kind of get that.
No, I get it.
To a certain extent. I'm not saying that it's ideal, but it's also a trade-off for having, and we know that, for having a free service like Facebook or like Google or like a lot of these other things. You get it for free because you're paying in another way. And the way that you're paying is by
your
giving
data.
away your data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They will take that, and like it is kind of everywhere, you know. And one of my main things is I hope that in time there will be alternatives that you essentially can actually pay for. I would pay $5 for somebody that could actually compete, and I had a social media platform that wasn't like data mining me and advertising to me all the time. You know, I'd pay for that because it's a dumpster fire. But essentially, all of this stuff kind of plays along the same line, where you have people that are using the vast majority of data. Another thing that I thought about while we were listening to this is they still don't have the computing to really do the stuff that's going to get squirrely with this. Whenever we hit quantum computing and they can go through all of the data at a very high rate of speed, it's going to get real squirrely. These things are going to become major issues because it's not going to be something where occasionally some random people are trying to implement these things. It's going to be everybody's doing it, and it's very, very fast. And if it's making mistakes or how much data are they going to scrape from people, there's a ton of stuff that's just going to get really, really weird.
One of the most disturbing things, and it didn't even this is a later on episode, but I feel like it didn't get highlighted very much. There is a company that has one of the most accurate facial recognition softwares that they're saying is like 99% accurate, and it's a Russian company, and they've like beat Google and all these other giant companies. And I hate that it's a Russian company. Not
Why?
that I hate Russians, but it's just like,
Do you want
if
America
we're
to
gonna
win?
no, I don't care who wins whatever this race is.
I'm
that
messing
we're,
with you. I'm messing with you.
but we already know that like Russia likes to tinker with some stuff that we're doing, and it's just it's like, come on, man. Why's
Yeah.
it got to be a Russian company that's got the best facial recognition software out there, and now we're like going to give it to our cops and stuff? It's like, no, it sounds like a bad idea.
It sure does. Sounds like that
Let's-
data might be misused potentially by the IP holder on that. But yeah, so they essentially start out with kind of how can these things go wrong? Then they move into essentially exactly that. We're just the databases, because a lot of these, okay, if they put in something into, I think it was Clearview, that if they ran, like if they were using their service, if they put in a picture, it would immediately scrape every social media thing. That's like the first thing it did. So Twitter, Facebook, everything like that. And Twitter since has been like, stop, like cease and desist. There's some companies that have said that. I do not believe Facebook is one of them. Although their stuff's fairly sophisticated. I feel like they kind of got left out of this. But like, have you ever been like tagged in a photo that it just like saw your face, was like, oh, there you are?
Yeah. I will say this, and I've told you this before. My daughter has very similar facial features to me. And so there's been a lot of times where at least Facebook, hey, Facebook, if you're going to do your facial recognition thing, get it a little bit better, because you think my daughter is me, because I'm tagged in pictures all the time that I'm not in, and it's just my daughter's face, because she looks enough like me that I get tagged as her.
Yeah, and one time I was looking for our company's Facebook page. I was looking to try and see it, and I searched it, and it literally brought up a picture of me with that hat on. So it like translated it to, it read my hat. And
That's
I was
weird.
like, okay, Facebook,
That's
I get it.
interesting.
But yeah, so essentially they would use kind of whatever, because he even did this to the host of the show.
Yeah.
He said, hey, I took a screenshot of you. I want to show you kind of how this works. And he literally put her face into this program, and it brought up tons of pictures of her, of basically just whatever. So basically, after hearing all this, if you are concerned about this happening, you should set all of your social media profiles to private. And if you're really concerned about it happening, you should get off social media and not put any of your pictures online. But it almost, and this is maybe the thing that like, maybe the most paranoid about it all is, I don't think there's really any escaping it at this point. When they talk about the amount of like entities using this, it's like, it's ridiculous. And I saw in chat, Twig said, take face mask facial recognition software. And yeah, that's been a problem, honestly. I've heard people talking about that. And I can't remember what article I read, but like, there's some concern with law enforcement because, yeah, now facial recognition isn't working at all, because literally half people's faces are covered up all the time, and it's messed up what they're doing. So, yeah, it definitely is a silver lining of us all having to wear masks all the time.
Yeah, the only one that seemed like it was able to keep up was that Russian one, because they were talking about the accuracy is almost the same with that software or whatever. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. The issue is, like you said, it's gonna be inevitable. It's gonna be in our daily lives. It's gonna be something that's everywhere. So here's the thing, and here is something they talked about a lot. Okay, it's gonna be used. It's gonna be in our lives. There needs to be oversight. There needs to be some sort of guidelines that keep us safe, that keep human rights in mind, and that's what needs to happen. Because heck, they played a TED talk or something from the Google CEO at the time, and this was like 8 years ago, and he was saying how he was very worried about facial recognition software and how it could be a human rights issue, but he expected that regulation would come in and fix that. But that was 8 years ago, and they're still like unregulated.
Yeah, it's funny because everybody's kind of like, well, somebody needs to do something about this while nobody does anything about it. But yeah, there's definitely some weird stuff happening. Like, because they mentioned in one of these episodes that some of these private companies are literally approaching detectives and going to them instead of through like the proper channels to even test this thing. And it's like, there needs to be oversight on things like this. There needs to be some kind of an understanding that this isn't just freewheeling. And also, which story were they talking about? I think it was the guy who got wrongfully arrested. They would not even admit that the whole reason this happened was because of facial recognition. They did.
No, they did admit it to him, but they talked about how they didn't have to, and that like the cops basically slipped up and said it, and so that's why now there's like legal stuff and things like that. But that it happens more often than you think, and there's literally probably people in jail now that got in jail because of this, because they had to take a plea deal because there was so much evidence that the attorney was probably like, hey, you need to take this plea deal or you're gonna go for a long time, which is disturbing. It's very, they talk about that young girl that was like going to college here in the US, and do you remember that one?
Yeah.
That one blew my mind. That one was horrible. I even like, I think in my notes I put WTF, like what the F, like how does this happen? She's going to university here in the US, and she was all over the news in her home country of Sri Lanka as doing this terrorist attack there, and her family had to deal with it, and just a bunch of stuff.
It was incorrect, and so
completely wrong.
I do feel like there has to be it has to be more transparent. If you're going to put people in jail for it, you have to be like, it has to be more transparent. I don't even feel like that's a hot take, honestly. Like in general, that's the whole thing, is like people are innocent till proven guilty. There has to be a display of evidence. All of these things need to be transparent for the future. Otherwise it's going to get worse, because they talked about one Florida entity that is essentially like the Clearview entity, where they're doing facial recognition. But just the other day, literally 2 days ago,
yes,
I saw this story of another place in Hillsborough, or no, it was in Pasco, but in
like one county over from us.
Yeah. And it basically is about a sheriff's office that has done something that is kind of around these areas. So what they've done is they have essentially tried to make what Minority Report's about, where they try and predictively guess who's going to break the law based off of, and I'll read you the list of like what they said, based on arrest histories, unspecified intelligence, and arbitrary decisions by police analysts. So, okay, a couple red flags you're seeing, I'm sure. And essentially, you go out and they would have targets that they were looking for, and they would go constantly. And they would try to find these people, and they would try and catch them slipping up. And so essentially you have harassment going on, and this was something that was local. And then it also made me wonder when I was listening to this, is unspecified intelligence, would that be like this?
It's more than mildly disturbing. I don't know. Here's the thing. In a perfect world, with no bias and with the greatest technology, sure, that would be great. It would actually keep us safer and all these other things. But that's not where we're at. And I think even as a young kid, I was like, oh, well, that sounds cool for Minority Report. Like, that sounds neat. You can stop people from being, bad guys, because that's the brain you have when you're a child. Bad guys,
Yeah.
good guys. And that's just it's. Now as an adult and a little more cynical, you kind of see like, oh, things aren't quite as simple as they seemed when I was a child, and we're not there yet. That we're as a society, as the human race, we're not there yet.
No, but we need to
we're
get
not.
there. That's the thing, that it definitely made me think about that, where it's like we need to have these types of conversations and have these things better understood with the amount of usage they're currently under. I think it's something that we need to have that discussion ongoing, because it's important. But honestly, it's a great show. Like we said, terrifying, amazing at the same time. You learn all kinds of stuff. They actually started their second mini series after this, and this one is about, I guess, DNA. So maybe even like tinkering with DNA, because the whole show is about automation. And so the next one of their next like mini series that just came out about a week ago is down and dirty with COVID genes. So I think they're trying to understand like how automation is used to study and impact DNA. So it's going to end up being a really great show. It's got a ton of information. It's very well produced, and I think it's just going to go up and up, basically.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm glad that we listened to all 4 episodes. It was a great recommendation, because it just came out, by the way. It came out the beginning of August.
Yeah,
so like
first
August,
episode,
like 12th
August 12th.
or 14th or something
well,
like that.
they dropped the first mini series on the 12th.
Yeah,
so
so
all 4.
it's not even a month old yet. So it's a great show, great time to go check it out, and I'm excited to see what they do from here on out.
It really is incredible.
So, real quick, I want to talk about all of the other things that we have going on. So we have a Twitch channel. We would love for you to follow us over there. We have a YouTube. We are starting to post all of our live shows on there, as well as the audio, because some people actually listen to podcasts through YouTube. You wouldn't think so, but it's a thing. And we have our stuff on there as well, on audio version or video version, as well as the games that we play after hours and stuff like that. We also have a Patreon. Our Patreon I have been working on, and I have some episodes on there that you can't get anywhere else. They're specifically on there, and I will only let you listen to them if you give me money, because
you're in for a very special ride, because he started from episode 1.
0. I have episode 0 on there.
Okay. I really wish we could play a little clip of episode 0, just so people get a sense of the differences. Describe it for them a little bit.
Oh God, it's embarrassing for me to even talk about.
It shouldn't be embarrassing. It's what helps you know how good we've gotten.
For some reason, I thought it was a good idea for me and Josh, because we were the ones that first started, for us to give a bio of who we were as hosts. So both of us wrote out like hi, my name is Kirk, and I have 2 children. And it was like so bad, and you could so tell I was reading it, and it was just like no one cares, and it was rough. But it's funny because you can just tell how earnest we were in wanting to do a good job. We tried hard. I guess you could say that. And then Zach came in like episode 12, and I think it made the show much worse at first, audio wise.
Yes.
For sure.
That's
And
that's why
then-
we got new mics, is literally because us three trying to split a condenser mic was terrible.
It sounded like we were in a bathroom. It sounded like we were all sitting in a bathtub together and recording on.
You're not supposed to
someone's
tell them that
iPhone.
part. You're not supposed to tell them how we recorded in the early days.
But yeah, so you can get all of those exclusive archives over on the Patreon, and I'm going to put all of the stuff in there. So eventually it's just going to be this season on all of the catchers, but the other 3 seasons will be in the archive on the Patreon. And it's only $4 a month, which is, guys, if you do the math, that's 50 cents per episode that we do.
It is 50 cents an episode.
We're not asking for much, and to be honest, it's all going to go. All of that money goes right back to the show. We've been investing in a lot of different things, and we're excited about all the things that we got coming up.
Yeah, we definitely are. And yeah, we really appreciate everybody checking out anything, any way they can. So yeah, we really appreciate anybody listening.
So that brings us to this week's recommendation. So as Zach mentioned, we are still celebrating our 100-ish, which it's way past 100.
We're so far past it. We totally messed up on our counting on this. I feel like we counted at one point, but I like this. I like taking recommendations from other like awesome like friends we've made in the community.
And I've talked to Zach about it off mic, and I would like to have this be the format eventually in the future, on a regular basis, where people that are listening to the show or friends of the show can send us their recommendations, and that be part of the format. So that'll be one of the things. We sit down at the drawing board at the end of the year, and we'll see what the next year holds, and I'm excited to see what that'll happen. But this is a recommendation from our friend over at This Week Today, Toph. He responded. He actually gave us like 3 or 4, but we'll spread them out a little bit, maybe pick just a few of them. But the one that I want to recommend is Hypotheticast. So hypothetical questions type thing, but it's Hypotheticast. Episode 108, 1 hour in the snake cage. I did listen to the show a little bit, so I wanted to kind of get a vibe on, if it fit in our what we're trying to do, and I think it's perfect for what we want to do. So that's the show we're going to listen to this week. And we'll probably listen to that on our Discord collectively if you want to join us over there on Friday. That's when we usually do it, around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and listen to it from now to then. And then we'll talk about that one next week. And remember,
there's always more to discover.
Hey, Zach, before we end, I want you to say hello to our friend over on the YouTube, Kevin. There is proof that the listeners in Brazil actually exist, because actually someone called me out the other day on Facebook. They didn't call us out, but they mentioned it as well. What if it's Americans using what is it?
No, we can see it. We can see it in our stats in Libsyn.
No, but you know how they have the what do they call
VPNs.
it? VPNs. I'm like, I guess that's possible.
No, and
but
you said something in Portuguese, and I guess that could still, yeah, okay. If somebody
this
wanted
is
to
a
go,
brother, this is a brother in Brazil watching the show right now, and he said he got to know our podcast through recommendation to learn English, and it helps a lot because of the way you all talk is easy to understand. I really appreciate that, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what you mentioned earlier, Zach.
that's amazing.
Is,
Yeah, we're super excited that everybody's able to do that, and yeah, we hope that we can continue reaching out internationally. We love that idea. But yeah,
So we're gonna take a real quick, like 3-minute break, go to the bathroom, get ourselves something to drink real quick, and we'll be right back to do the other Discovery show where we talk about all of the other things we discovered, and we've got some really cool stuff, guys. Stay tuned.
thanks for checking it out.
I am back. Yeah, go ahead and throw us live. It's fine. I'm just got to pour my Coke into my whiskey. Let's go ahead and start the new. I'm gonna start the new Zencaster.
Okay. All right, we are back.
Yes, we are.
Thanks for sticking around. We are about to break into all the other things we discovered throughout the week. And this is another thing that if you join the Patreon, you're going to hear the really terrible version of this show that we had before.
Oh God, the warm up. Everything's got to have a humble beginning for us. Apparently,
It was very humble. Yeah, this show literally started originally as we didn't want to just jump right into recording. We wanted to kind of sit down and like hang out for a minute and start talking and kind of get in the flow of a conversation before we start recording. And so we're like, you know what? This stuff is gold. We need to record it. Spoiler alert,
wasn't.
it's not gold.
it wasn't.
It is not.
'Cause
It's really bad.
It got to a point where we're like, "Hey, Josh, what'd you watch on YouTube this week?" I think I watched Good Mythical Morning. You said that last week. Well, so let's watch this week. So it's like it got real. We had to stretch to fill space. Yeah, it
So
wasn't
then
great.
We added a little bit of effort and we said, hey, discover something. And that's what we started talking about. And that's where this one came from. And now we do it after because, I don't know. We don't need it for a warm-up anymore. We just want to do it for fun. We just like discovering new things.
Yeah, it is. It's so fun. I really enjoy because I think I would be very good at trivia nights now because of this, because I know so many random weird facts and stuff.
Is there any like party trivia online games? There has to be, right? That'd be a fun thing to play with everybody. Like,
there's some
the
Jackbox
Discord
stuff.
or
Some
in-
of that's some trivia like that. Yeah, when you look into that, because that would be interesting. A lot of the stuff I find isn't really pop culture as much as it's like science and like obscure news, which is the fun part.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Todd's it's become my labor of love. I enjoy it, and I enjoy doing the discoveries for the Podcast Discovery Club and the Twitters. And it's did I say Twitters?
So
I did.
not just the one Twitter, but multiple Twitters.
All the tweeters.
Are we good on? Yeah, we're good on Zencaster too, right?
Yeah, we're good on everything. All right, and I'm excited, guys. We have some call-ins this week.
We do have some call-ins this week.
So, get ready for that.
Yeah, definitely get ready for that. Long time listeners. Someone's back. Someone is back. On the Disco hotline.
One second. Texting my wife. I usually get in trouble because she'll text me something and I won't see it for like an hour. And she's like, I know that you're right there and you have your phone in front of you. All right, we need 10 seconds silence starting now. Welcome to the other Discovery Show, the bonus show from the Podcast Discovery Show that's not about podcasts. We do not talk about podcasts on this one. We talk about all the other things that we've discovered throughout the week. I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach. And I discovered something pretty interesting this week. We've seen a lot of kind of political type discussion on statues here in the past 6 months in the U.S. And I saw an Atlas Obscure article that was amazing, and we had to talk about it. So the title of this article is the museum where racist and oppressive statues go to die. So Germany found a way to preserve these things in a different way. So essentially, this all started because they received a 400-pound church bell imprinted with a small but unmistakable swastika on it. And so they had to have this mental challenge, essentially. Like, should we put this up? It's got Nazi paraphernalia on it.
Mm-hmm.
And what they ended up doing was making a museum dedicated to specifically that type of history. And so they have things like Nazi artifacts. They have military Prussian rulers, statues of Aryan athletes and warriors, and they have the head of the 60-foot tall Vladimir Lenin statue that was decapitated, and it weighs 8 tons. It's gigantic, and there's a really amazing picture on this article. I should just link this in chat right now so we can check this out.
We should.
But basically, they have this entire thing, but it's not like any other museum you'll ever go to. So, what they say about it: inside the museum, visitors confront at eye level statues and monuments that used to represent power. You can touch everything. Nothing is put on a pedestal. You can talk about what makes you mad. And basically that church bell is up there. You can literally, they have all of these things that were once created to be these like revered things. And I can't think of one other museum that literally says, touch everything in here. We don't care. They want to take some of the power away from it.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, they want to take the power. And it's all like Vladimir Lenin's head. If you scroll down in this article, anybody who could see it, it's literally on its side, just like on the floor. And
are you allowed to pee on it?
I don't. Probably not that. That seems unsanitary. I think that's a different problem. But it was just a really interesting thing to see. And the Germans obviously have had to kind of process how to move forward with how they're going to act after having the history that they have, you know. And I always respected that about them. They have like, what did they call those? Did they call them stumbling stones or stumbling blocks? I can't remember. Like yeah, they have.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they essentially have little monuments to the people who were killed in the Holocaust that look nothing more than just like raised stones, because they just want to always remember the negative parts of their history to try and avoid it. And it was just interesting to see kind of their take on this, because they have such an interesting perspective on all of this anyways. But a professor of global art history at Hamburg University essentially said, we need to de-heroize these monuments to take away the heroic appeal. This can be done by laying them down or placing them upside down. That way everyone passing would be forced to engage with the monument in question. And then essentially, you can just walk in there and touch whatever you want. You can see these things that were so important to history. Like Lenin was like a dictator of like a gigantic communist regime. And now his decapitated head that weighs 8 tons, he built this enormous monument to himself. And it is now like laying on its side in this place, and just you can just like see it. And so they want to preserve the idea of it, but not like make it so that it could anyway be like glorified in there. So it's this weird mixture of things. Okay, so kind of their last quote they have in this article is, it's a great mistake to describe the monuments as history or heritage. We don't memorialize every piece of our histories. We pick and choose those men and women whose lives embodied values that we want our communities to share. And I just, honestly, just an awesome article. I was looking for something Atlas Obscura because I think everyone should check it out. It's just really, and Gastro Obscura too. It's just a really, really great website. And yeah, that one just, it was so close to home in a way, because we've been having these same types of debates in America very often recently. And so it's just interesting to see an international take on it.
I thought it was kind of funny. I think it was just like a post on either Twitter or Reddit that there was a few of those statues that were problematic and some people wanted to take down, and they had been voted to stay up, and these recent hurricanes came through and knocked them down. And so I thought that was pretty funny. It's
nature,
like, okay.
Nature finds a way.
That was great. So did you see about Amazon's drones?
No, I didn't see any
So there was
new information on them. I knew that they were working on this.
Yeah, they've been working on it for years. They've been talking about it at least. But the FFA, the FAA, they
I was
made a
about to say
recent
the
decision.
FFA. Why are they involved?
Dang it! I knew. Amazon is one big step closer to delivering packages by drone because the FAA just came out with basically new orders for Amazon with guidelines and basically saying clearing them for doing a lot of the things they want to do. And here's the link. I just shared it on all the stuff. These drones are really interesting because they're not just the like helicopter drones. They have like a frame that goes around the propellers that also has aerodynamics so that when they are to the height they want to get at, then they tilt and they almost become like wings. Like they make it aerodynamic so that they're more like a plane in a way. There's even a video on this. It's a popular science article, and they talk about it. They can only carry up to 5 pounds, which doesn't seem like much, right? However, I didn't know it, but the 5-pound weight class actually represents between 75 and 90% of the packages that Amazon delivers.
That would be that's what I was trying to think, like what would be more than 5? I mean, you can't get your weight equipment. You can't have the drone bring your kettlebells, but other than that, the vast majority of stuff you're getting, you're probably good. No liquids.
And at first, it's funny because I was thinking, oh, this is just going to be for like densely populated areas and stuff like that. Well, actually, it's going to be the opposite. The FAA, dang it, now I'm got in my own head. The FAA basically said it can't be used in densely populated areas. It's got to be more rural type areas like where we live. So we may get it before like New York.
I mean, that sounds like a safe choice. It definitely sounds like a better idea to try it in our area versus New York City.
Now, in the article, they do talk a lot about how there are still a lot of hurdles that have to be jumped through, but they're one step closer to being able to do it. And it's exciting. I mean, literally, it's something that is from like the Jetsons or something. Stuff being delivered by drone. It's really interesting.
No, I'm glad you brought that one because it feels like mine is also a kind of a futuristic thing too. So then you combine that with our PDS this week, and we have a lot of weird future stuff. But I will be honest in that I would love to order something from Amazon and get it like the same day delivered by a drone.
Yeah, they're saying within 30 minutes. That's what their plan is. So you order something, and within 30 minutes, it's at your doorstep. That's the plan.
I mean, I'm slightly concerned if everybody was on board on this. Is there just drones all over the place? It's like birds. There's just drones all over the sky.
This is the vice president of Amazon. He said, we will continue to develop and refine our technology to fully integrate delivery drones into the airspace and work closely with the FAA and other regulators around the world to realize our vision of 30-minute delivery. So yeah, their plan is to be able to deliver things within 30 minutes of you ordering them, which would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I agree completely. But yeah, that will be something. It definitely is futuristic, and who knows I'm sure there'll be some kind of weird thing that happens, but we're going to just lean into it. We're going to get our packages even faster. Waiting for 2 days is stupid, and we want it immediately. So yeah, like Kirk said, we did receive a couple of calls that we'd like to share with you. Should we go discovery call first or second?
Let's go. You should want the movies?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go movie first, and then let's go to our discovery hotline.
Okay, sounds good.
Hello, everyone. It is Giles here from the Filmmakers Podcast, and I'm going to give you a recommendation for a film. And I'd actually like to recommend a film by Alejandro Montoya Marin, who made the film Monday. And he made this film for $7,000, and it was all part of the Robert Rodriguez, his film school. And this film, considering it was made for $7,000, is incredible. It is called Monday, and it is so cool. He's brought in all the aspects of sort of Robert Rodriguez's school, how he could make those films, and how he went about making it, and with the behind the scenes of this movie is incredible. I urge you, check out Monday by Alejandro Montoya Marin.
So yeah, those are the guys that were from the Filmmakers Podcast, and Giles wanted to recommend the movie. And for anybody that doesn't know, Robert Rodriguez, when he first made, I think his first one was just called El Mariachi. It was before Desperado. He actually kind of redid this movie, but he did it like shoestring. I think he shot it on like film, and he cut everything himself, and like everything was as cheaply made as possible. And he now has a film school where he will teach other people how to do that same type of thing. So this guy apparently followed that idea and made a movie for $7,000. And yeah, these guys are very familiar with films, so I'm going to have to check that one out. So special shout out to Filmmakers Podcast. Giles and Robbie it was amazing to talk to them.
Yeah, if you have even the slightest interest in ever making a movie, making a film, or even learning about what goes into doing that, this show is amazing, and you should definitely check it out. Filmmakers Podcast.
And now for the more serious of the two calls. So anybody who's been a long time listener will recognize Johnny, and it's probably been, I can literally check. It has been since April that we have not heard from Johnny. We've been worried about him.
Where has Johnny been?
But Johnny's back, and he had some stuff they wanted to tell us, so we're gonna play that one next.
Hey boys, it's Johnny. Hey man, I'm so sorry that it's been a really long time since I've been able to give you a call. Oh, you would not believe what's been happening these past few months here. Oh man, I had the Corona, you know what I'm saying, COVID-19. And, I went to this doctor that was like one of them all natural doctors, and they gave me all these essential oils. And man, it took a long time for me to heal. And then they told me that I had to isolate. So they sent me to this cabin up in the woods. And then when I came back, my whole bank account was just empty, and I had been scammed. So it was a crazy mess. So I am back home now, and everything's going okay. But I just miss you guys, especially Zach. You know how I feel about him. And Kirk, you're okay too. But yeah, I just wanted to hit you guys up and let you know if I'm doing okay. Everything's fine, and I'm having a good time here, all right? You guys stay safe, and I hope to be back to my culinary tip of the week here soon. Peace out, boy.
So yeah, thank you so much to Johnny.
Man, he missed you, Zach. I'm okay, but he missed you. I love how every time it's just, hey, Kirk, you're okay. Oh, I missed you, Johnny. Missed you so much.
We were worried. We were worried about Johnny because he and we were just asked in chat, who is this person? He is a guy that calls the disco hotline, and he introduced himself to us there and only there. And so he lives there.
Yeah, and he's been he sent us a few of his cooking ideas, and that's what he mentioned at the end of the end of the call.
Yeah, he was doing culinary tip of the week.
More of his culinary tips.
So if that starts happening again, everyone's got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. And if you want to call the Discovery Hotline, if you have a discovery, or if you just want to say hi, like Johnny likes to do, give us a call. We've got the hotline number in the show notes. Give it a call. Leave a message. It's very simple. And we will play it on the show coming up.
What are you confused about, Twigs?
Probably about who Johnny is.
Oh, we're confused about that too.
We have some theories as to who we think it is, but we're not 100% sure. We're pretty sure it's someone we know, but
it has to be.
We don't know. I mean, he's a real life.
That is an actual person at some level.
Yeah. I mean, Don't question his existence. Johnny is a real person. You're gonna hurt his feelings.
Okay.
So I found this very interesting article. It's pretty long, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's a BBC article about the Pied Piper. We all know the story of the Pied Piper, right? Like, you know,
Right.
there was all these rats in this town, and the king or whatever is like, hey, we've got all these rats, we need to get rid of them. And this guy's like, well, I can get rid of them. And he plays music, gets all the rats out, but then he like comes back and then he like steals all the children. It's real weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a pretty dark one.
It's a dark one, but apparently it's not just a fable. There's actually historical documentation that something happened, and it has a specific date as to when something happened in this town of Hamelin, Germany, and it talks about the children leaving, and it's a little bit disturbing because no one knows exactly what happened. And it's funny because they show pictures and stuff about this little town, and the town's now famous for the story because this is supposedly where it happened. And all the shops like have, you know, like rat shaped pastries or you know, music that they even have like a dude in that would do like a tour of the town dressed as the Pied Piper and probably plays music, I'm sure. But it's a very interesting to see all the theories that scholars have had as to what might have happened. One of the scholars says that they believe that maybe there was a kind of a famine and something like that, or something that everyone needed to migrate. So everyone migrated at one time, and the people that were trying to get the people to move to a better place were dressed all nice and play music for people to follow them. So that's one of the theories. Let's see what some of the other theories were. Yeah, so they said the Pied Piper played the role of a so-called locator or recruiter. They were responsible for organizing migrations to the east and were said to have worn colorful garments and played an instrument to attract the attention of possible settlers. So that's one of the ones, which is nice. That one makes sense. Historically, probably makes decent sense. And it doesn't sound horrible, like a bunch of children being,
there is that. It's not horrific.
Taken away. And that's one of the more accepted ones. Let's see. There was another one in here that was not as cheery. There's one of them talks about a lot of the youth being lost to the Black Plague, which is horrible.
Yeah.
There's also one. Do you remember that we talked about a story about dancing mania? The thing where people would like dance uncontrollably, and like it was literally this thing. People were dying because they wouldn't stop dancing, and it was like this weird thing. It was around that same time, so they were saying that this might be part of the hysteria and whatever that was going on at that time, because there was an outbreak nearby for the same thing. But the article says they don't explain the very particular date cited for the loss of the children and the local sense of trauma, because apparently it's on a specific pagan holiday of like the solstice. So there is some very dark theories as to what may have happened to the children in regards to that pagan holiday.
So compared to the Pied Piper, the pagan holiday one is much, much worse.
So, yeah. So basically, we know that the Pied Piper thing is somewhat rooted in history, but we don't know what the true story is, which I thought was fascinating. You know, I've always thought it was just a children's story. Completely just thought it was a children's story.
Yeah.
Even when I was young, I didn't think it was a real thing.
Yeah, that is wild. And get ready for something else wild, because I read an article about Neuralink. Have you read about this? Do you know what this is?
That's the Elon Musk thing that he wants to do, right?
This is Elon Musk's Fitbit for your brain. So this looks like I'll post this in the chat as well. This looks like a little coin that has a bunch of tiny little wires that plug directly into your brain. And the point of it is to do a lot of things. So, okay, this has been in production for a long time. Basically, the idea is, at least one of the potential things that they're looking at, there are many neurological problems that people experience, such as memory loss, depression, blindness, and seizures. And they're all a result of electrical signals on the brain firing improperly. And this could potentially fix that, because this is something that is essentially able to plug directly into your brain and put electrical signals into your brain. So if we were able to...
It sounds great, Zach. What do I need to do to get this amazing device? I want it right now.
It just
what do I need to do?
It keeps going weirder and weirder. So, okay, it's the size
I'm looking at the article and I want to know.
Yeah, it's the size of a coin. And then now, they were originally going to have it behind your ear. But now, they literally want to implant it in your skull. They're going to remove a piece of your skull and put it under your skin so that it's like flush with your head. You can charge it with, like, I think wireless charging, I'm assuming. I don't think they want people plugging their head in, like, at night. And then, yeah, so basically electrical threads are plugging directly into your brain. So, and then this is another quote from the article. For many potential Neuralink users, undergoing brain surgery might make them uneasy. But the company is not just building the chip, but also a robot to install it. The robot will handle the most difficult aspects of the surgery, which Neuralink hopes will take under an hour and be done without general anesthesia. And then comes the next part of it that's just ridiculous. They have tested this on pigs. So for this whole thing, they brought out 3 pigs. They brought out one pig that it was just normal pig, just pig doing pig things. They brought out a second pig that had the Neuralink and then had it removed to show that even though that this was once a cyborg pig, now it is back to being a normal happy pig. But then the third pig was currently a cyborg, and it apparently was a little skittish because just it was being brought on stage. But other than that, it was fine.
It just had its brain drilled into.
Not recent. Like, it wasn't. It didn't just happen. I don't think. Did it? I don't think so.
I don't know.
No, but it probably was generally wary of humans after that. To be fair, like that's a kind of intense thing to go through. But basically, it was still acting like a normal pig. And they also were able to they could broadcast the brain waves of this pig to a TV because it's a cyborg pig.
I'm not going to lie. It does sound really cool. Do I want one? Yes. Do I want to get my head drilled? No. Will I get my head drilled to have one? No. But it sounds cool.
Yeah, no, but here's the thing.
I'm not going to have brain surgery for it.
It starts to get real Black Mirror styles. So Elon Musk has even said some of these things. So some of the things that he sees as like a potential future for if this gets wide acceptance and advancement. You could play StarCraft via your mind. And that one day, people might even be able to save and replay memories. Black Mirror episode. Potentially even download them into a new body. Altered Carbon. In the past, we've wondered if these chips would be vulnerable to hackers who could steal brain data. Literally, we're talking about hackers breaking into your brain. Like,
I love how before it's even done, we're like worried about, dang it, people are going to hack this crap.
They should be worried about that. People hack everything possible. People have hacked like Wi-Fi connected toasters just because they can. So it's definitely something that, and if it's plugged into my brain, I want it to be hack proof. Like if it needs to, like yes, whatever it has to be, no hacking allowed. I don't know.
How do you keep your password from someone if it's you?
If they steal it from your brain.
Steal it from your brain. Literally, you're reading it off of a thing that makes a different one every single time, and you still would have it in your brain. There's no way.
Yeah. So it's
safe.
I'm trying to. Okay, what would it take? What benefit would it have to bring you for you to get a Neuralink?
You already said it. I could play StarCraft with my mind.
That's all it takes. You can play StarCraft without your mind.
I'm just kidding. Nothing. I don't think there's a thing that would make me do this.
What if you could? No, I feel like it would be extra cybernetics to do that. What if you never forgot anything ever again? Like ever. Nothing.
Okay.
And also, Twigs, in general, possibly something it could work on. So in chat, she said if it takes away anxiety/depression or helps with just general mood, it could do that. And once again, all of these things are Black Mirror episodes, because if you start talking about like, oh, I'm only happy all the time. Isn't that a Black Mirror episode? I think it is, where you can't be sad. I can't remember.
I haven't seen all of them. It sounds like one. I remember the one where they had like everyone had their own rating and stuff, and they had to like be super fake to try to get the ratings and stuff like that. That was a really good episode.
Yeah, the one I was thinking about when I said that earlier is there was one where everybody has contacts that record everything. And so there was a couple that were like breaking up, and they kept like rewinding and replaying everything and like using it in their argument. It was Black Mirror's a good show, but it's literally too bleak. I think they even said this, like the world is too bleak for them to keep making episodes right now, because it is a bleak show in general. But yeah, no, it's an awesome idea. I'm freaked out by it. Just
there was a guy that came on Shark Tank that had. It wasn't quite this, but it was similar. And you would have to have a surgery, and it was like a Bluetooth / you could listen to music and everything, all the other things. And the charger was like it was like a pick that would go into your ear to where the thing that had been installed. And the sharks just lost their crap laughing at this dude, and they laughed him away. But it was a thing that people are trying to do stuff like this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you've got to have crazy and ridiculous ideas before something actually hits. I get that, and this is how we move forward and do get stuff that maybe isn't as invasive. Because this sounds amazing if it wasn't as invasive as it has to be to do this, right? I mean, if I could just have this even on my skin, that's cool. Didn't we talk about like some sort of tattoos that would be able to tell you like your blood sugar and stuff like that before?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And honestly, if they would just kept it like the behind the ear one instead of like I have to get my skull chopped up, I would be more likely to do that.
That's my problem. Definitely, that's my problem. But yeah.
Well, my last discovery this week, I actually talked to a band this week for Creators Cove. And so we'll end this one with a song. But thanks so much for listening to the Podcast Discovery Show. We really appreciate it. We are on Twitch. We're on YouTube. We have a Patreon where you can find all of our old episodes, and we're going to be continually adding more stuff on there. We have a Facebook group. We have a Twitter. If you Google search the Podcast Discovery Show, you will probably find whatever avenue you want to go down. We're probably on there. So we'd love for you to get in touch. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to have you join a live stream sometime. We live stream all of our episodes, and we'd love to get to chat with you while we do it.
Yeah, for sure. And we really appreciate you listening more than we can express. It's a blast. We really love making the show, and more than anything, we really love meeting new friends that listen to the show and just kind of love discovering stuff with you guys. So reach out. Let us know. Call a hotline. Hit us up on Twitter. Join the club. Let's become friends. Everyone needs a friend right now.
All of those things. And speaking of hotlines, the band this week is called Corey Hotline. They are from Toronto, Canada. And they spent a long time, 10 years or so, playing live shows. And so they were all very experienced, but they were a lot of times doing covers, and they were playing a type of rock. And all of them got together, and through just playing and trying to find what their sound would be, they came up with Corey Hotline, which is kind of this dance, funky, pop, just energy music that's really, really fun to listen to. And the song is called Work It Out.
Work it out. Love you guys, and we will see you guys next week.
Next week.
Bye.
Okay.
All right. I think that went well. Perfect 30. A perfect 30, man.
Was it really 30?
30 with 50 seconds.
Yeah, it's good. Okay. All right, everybody. All right, everybody watching the stream. If you play video games, get ready because we want to play video games. We're going to play some Among Us, I think, is the plan. So we're going to switch over. Kirk, let me know when you're kind of ready and I'll end it.
Turn your Skype on. I can't hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now. I said,
okay.
Kirk, get your stuff ready and then let me know. And the stream will switch over for 1 second because we're going to switch over to the gaming side of things and have everything tagged correctly. I think we're going to play Among Us at least. We might have some more stuff peppered in there. We'll see. So we're going to try and collect a group together and we're going to try and play. So anybody in the chat, if you would like to play Among Us, send us a message, or anybody in the Twigs Discord group. That's where we're going to be in just a second. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the stream. We really appreciate it. Hope you come back next time. We love to talk to you every week, and we'd love for you to shoot over things that you discover throughout the week. We have a lot of ways for you to do it, and we hope that you get in touch.
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for joining us over on the YouTube from Brazil.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, let us know about one of your discoveries. We'd love to shout you out. Be like, hey, Kevin from Brazil discovered this. And we never would have been able to find it here, but he found it from there. That would be awesome. And yes, he asked if we do this every Friday, and we do. Every Friday.
We definitely do. And honestly, I do love the idea of us being something that people can listen to try and learn English. Although
it's awesome.
The amount of English they're going to learn is, or maybe the variety of English they're going to learn is special in the head, but what can you do? No, we talk about a wide variety of topics. It might help on just general level of random vocabulary available.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm going to close all these other things and then get the stream up. I am ready. I just need to get all everybody.
Actually, hold on. I'm going to put the end card. Stick around. Yeah. Seriously, refresh in like 15 seconds. We're going to be right back, and then it's game time.
Game time.